know how exciting 2022 is going to be, it's also going to field a few rookies as well. And I thought we should touch on how the rookies did out there, because we saw Fabio Di Giannantonio, fastest rookie, Ralph Fernandez, Remy Gardner making the step up, of course, their first proper goes in anger. I know they've already had a test on the bike, but, you know, first long haul test, I suppose. Brad Binder as well. Darren Binder, I should say. I'm going to keep doing that, aren't I? Darren Binder was going well, but he suffered a bit of a high side. What did you make of some of the rookies in action out there, Pete?
Well, I guess the surprise is Di Giannantonio being the fastest, wasn't it? I think, you know, nobody would have seen that. I mean, just on the fact that the Tech Trois guys had done that sort of one day at Misano, that gives them a bit of a head start. And Di Giannantonio, he was, I think, seventh in the Moto2 standings. So, you know, he wasn't the top guy on paper coming up, but he certainly adapted pretty well, isn't he? So I think that was a bit of a surprise. Also, the Grassini team, it's new. Obviously, they're splitting with the Aprilia, so there's a lot of changes going on there. It's not just, you know, a rookie rider coming in. They've got a new manufacturer. They're putting the team together and everything else. Riding the GP21. So they're on the bike that basically Bagnaia finished the season on, and that's what they'll race throughout next year. So, yeah, great performance by them. As you say, Darren Binder, obviously a lot of eyes on him, jumping straight from Moto3. And, you know, in fairness, 3 seconds off the pace or something? He did have that big high side, a cold tyre high side, the sort of classic, you know, thing that can catch out rookies. He slowed down to let a faster rider by, basically. He did it for the right reasons, if you like. But then in he goes to some of the corners afterwards and gets thrown off. But he did come back and go quicker. So he showed that, you know, and I think Razvan Rosali said, he showed that, you know, he could overcome that setback and still go faster. So I think pretty encouraging by all of them, really, all the rookies. I mean, they were never going to be at the front of the field in this sort of test, especially with these windy conditions, as Keith says, that people were saying was pretty much on the limit for riding.
Sometimes you get on a new bike, you know, and it gels with you straight away. You know, sometimes you can turn up at a test and you've got a brand spanking new bike, you get on it and it works and you're in love with it immediately. Another time, and that might be the case for one or two of these guys, you get on the bike and you think, oh my God, what have I signed up to? And that is going to be a real slog. And that's when you need testing. You know, like, again, I know I'm banging this drum a bit hard at the moment, but, you know, rookies need test time. They need plenty of time on bike. You need mileage to make this work for them, particularly somebody like Darren Binder. You know, Binder coming up from Moto3, particularly with the reputation he's got at the moment, he's got a double-edged sword going on. He's got all the constraints that his head's trying to stop him from making a bloody idiot of himself by knocking someone else off or, you know, hurting himself early on unnecessarily. But he's also got the fact that he's got this chance, and it might be a one-time chance to get on and make the transition from Moto3 straight onto MotoGP. Can he do it a better job than Jack, you know, Miller did when he jumped up? That's a big ask. I mean, Jack struggled with it for a while before coming to terms, and Jack's one of the, you know, top MotoGP riders now. So there's no reason why Binder can't do it, but we'll wait and see whether he can. I still think that from a rookie point of view, you know, if you get on a brand new bike, Digi obviously got on that bike, liked it, but a lot of the reason behind that will be the fact that, you know, the bike is well sorted and the technicians will know how to set that bike up in a way that would work for him immediately. And then they'll get to giving it his edginess a little bit later on in the test, I suspect. So, it was you know, sometimes you've got a good team around you, you've got a good motorbike under you, and they know how to bring those elements together in a test. You know, you go away from there feeling just, what a great way to go into your Christmas holidays. You know, like, he's the fastest rookie. He's had a good time. He got on well with the bike. He's going to be the happiest bloke.
And doesn't it just show how far the Ducatis come? That at Jerez, this tight, twisty track, where obviously, you know, Jack and Bagnaia were 1 and 2 this year, but I think before that it was Casey Stoner was the last guy to win on a Ducati. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what traditionally you would call a Ducati track.
That's my worry.
Exactly, Valencia. And it just shows, doesn't it?
Podium knockout of Valencia. You know, like a go-kart track where you would never have thought that, although Ducatis had performed well at Valencia previously, but I'm worried about the way it's headed to some extent, with Yamaha not producing what you thought they might have produced for the Jerez test, with Ducati having 8 bikes, 8 riders, and a massive amount of momentum in the technical department heading forward into 2022. But again, at the end of it all comes the constraints of the actual rules. You know, they are so incredibly tight that, you know, I think as Danny said, you know, the rules constrain any developments, really. It's only these surprises that somebody like Gigi Dall'Igna and his hordes of very clever people manage to drag out of the box every other week. Yeah, you look at the bike, it looks like it should be going through space. I don't know about going around a racetrack. Don't look like a motorbike anymore. It looks like, I know, back to Thunderbird 5.
Yeah.
Go back to, it looks like Thunderbird 5. Look it up, folks.
Yeah. Well, I think people could just about get that. You're not too bad with your age there, Keith. Let's just sort of finally finish on this. And it's just a thought coming off. I know you've been talking about testing and limited testing time. And that's been the case. Take Formula One, for instance. They've been slashing that for years. And it's, I think they get 7 days, I think, is in total of their pre-season for 2022. But... And this is something I think Bagnaia and a few other riders brought up in terms of, being able to get a super license for MotoGP and things like that. And if you look at that in Formula One, drivers have to do, I think it's a 500-kilometer private test to get their super license if they haven't achieved enough of points in junior Formula. But that's still crucial testing time. That is pounding laps round a track, practicing pit stops, practicing all this kind of thing. Is there something like that can be done in in motorbike racing? What's the deal with private testing, or in terms of limited testing time that can just give riders, even if it's on an old bike, more time on track? I
think the thing is, most of these guys have gone around Grand Prix tracks. They know what they're doing with regard to that. The youngsters coming through. I think we're making the Formula One IndyCar, if you like, analogies, where you've got to do the mileage just because they're not up to speed with cars of that type and the way that they run and the technicalities that go with them. Although having said that, probably not as daft as I might be thinking it is, because the amount of things now that you've got to control on the handlebars of a MotoGP bike are getting very close to like a steering wheel on a Formula One car. I mean, when I wouldn't be able to drive a Formula One car because there's so much crap you've got to remember while someone's talking to you as well, which we're all used to as broadcasters, of course. But the fact is you've got so many things to think about in a Formula One car and so many distractions that have got to feel like second nature. With motorbikes, up to recent times, that's not been the thing. You get on a motorbike, you know the track. We don't do you don't do simulators as such, like a lot of the car racers do. Although having said that, they do simulators in as much as everybody knows which way every track goes, and simulators, PS5 or whatever it might be nowadays, are so good. Even the trees and the track furniture and the stuff like that's in those packages are actually accurate. So, when you jump on your simulator back at home, your PS5 or whatever platform you're working off, they're really, really, really good. It's remarkable. Even the bumps in the track, they're based on real things. So, and I know that all your riders play on these. Even Valentino Rossi, up until when I last spoke to him was on the stage of the Day of Champions at Silverstone, and I asked him the question: do you still do what all the youngsters do? Do you watch every footage? Do you watch back every race? And he looked at me like I got two heads and said, of course, it's preparation, which makes him even more remarkable at 41 years old as he was when I last spoke to him on stage. That he still sits in his motorhome, his back room, wherever he is. I mean, we all know how hard it is to do prep when you're watching hours and hours of whatever we're covering. Even though I'm not doing any of it anymore, I will still watch every single session. And it drives my family insane because you sit there for hours watching you've got all the paperwork around, you've got a computer with the timing screens on, you've got the telly with what's going on. I don't even need that anymore. I'm not at trackside anymore. But you do it.
It's just sad now, isn't it? No.
Yep. I resemble that remark.
No, never.
But it is the way it is, and I think that I would have normally just knocked that back out the park regarding the Formula One analogy, but I do think that there is a lot of time spent now in that kind of, and maybe a super license will be the way that it will go in future. A lot depends on how Darren Binder makes it work. Jack Miller made that jump. It's going to be interesting to see if Darren Binder acquits himself well, then no. But I can see if it becomes the norm. I mean, Jack did it, and everybody went, "Oh, that's worst thing you could have done to a youngster," and it kind of worked out. Not quite as quickly as I think that some people might have thought he would, and some people thought he would fail miserably, but he hasn't. Now we'll see what Darren Binder is capable of doing, and that might open the floodgates. You might see people jumping over Moto2 now. Back in the time when Jack Miller did it, if I can just clear that a little bit, it was the jump from Moto3 to Moto2 wasn't a big jump. Moto3 to MotoGP was. Now, Moto3 to Moto2 is quite a big jump because the latest 765s with the electronics on it and everything, 765 Triumph motors and everything else on it, Moto2 is closer to MotoGP and further away from Moto3. So I can see more people looking at, well, let's cut out the middle. If you've got a super talent like a Costa, don't forget they're going to be older anyway soon, because you're not going to be 16-year-old, you're going to be 18-year-old before you can actually get a license at all to go Grand Prix racing, because we've had the latest rules changes regarding ages and the like to address the disasters that we've had this last year. So they're going to be older anyway. So I can see a lot more riders and a lot more teams exercising that jump from Moto3 to MotoGP in future because of the age situation. They're going to think that their riders are a little bit more mature and can handle a MotoGP bike technically and in their head more. So there might be more of those jumps. So you may have that super license, Harry, that you're talking about. And it's just taken me about 10 minutes to answer that very simple question.
That's when I know I've asked a good question.
No, it's when I can't think of the answer straight away.
Yes. Yeah.
Keep talking.
I guess the only problem with that is that maybe Dorna and people, they won't want people skipping Moto2. That maybe they'll be like, well, hang on a minute. You should be going through Moto2 to MotoGP. And as far as the super license, I think when the riders were asked, they were sort of saying, well, okay, Moto3 to MotoGP is questionable, should we say. You need to be the right person, and let's see how it gets on with Darren. But also there's been a lot of riders, Fabio Quartararo being the obvious one, that have come through Moto2 without a stunning record and been great in MotoGP. And you've got to be careful not to freeze those guys out. So it's hard to put exact, it's a bit like Danny Aldridge and the rules. It's hard to put exact words and numbers to who should be a MotoGP rider. But I think we have seen the manufacturers have a lot of control with things like wildcards, don't they? And we've had situations in the past where they maybe entered a wildcard or a replacement rider that really wasn't, they'd never been on a MotoGP bike before. And I think that it's sort of been agreed amongst them that, look, we won't put anyone forward in future that hasn't at least done a MotoGP test. So I think there's things like that the manufacturers can sort of sort out without the need to actually put a license in place. And I guess just one other thing, of course, there is a rookie test at Sepang that the rookies will be eligible for. So they will get an extra 3 days at Sepang. There's 2 tests at Sepang. There's what they call the shakedown, which is for test riders, for rookies, and for non-concession teams, which is Aprilia. So that's 3 days. So the rookies will get those 3 days, and then they'll also get the official test, which starts literally the following week. And that's a 2-day test for everybody. But that's literally the only extra track time that the rookies will get compared to everyone else.
1 week in between, they won't even got past their blisters. 3 days at Sepang. Hell of a track, Sepang, to be at. I mean, there's some fast old turns there. It's a quick old place to be going around Sepang. I mean, brilliant, but they will be sweating like they've not before. We are talking Southeast Asia. Even on a good day, it's going to be humid. It's going to be very, very warm. It's a tough 3 days. I've said it before. I mean, I think all these riders are remarkable. They fly out. 12-hour flight, 12.5-hour flight, or whatever it is, into Malaysia now. And they land, jet lag to hell, test the next day. By the time they get to the third day, when they're going to be wanting to bang that really, really impressive time in, you're absolutely knackered. 2 or 3 days off, you have a massage and sort yourselves out. I mean, obviously, these guys are mega, mega, mega fit now compared with the old days, but it's still an incredibly, incredibly hard week, really tough week. And they will fall down. Like the point is from Valentino Rossi backwards. I remember when they changed tyres to Michelin, I'd never seen so many crashes. I was in Malaysia. I was at Sepang when that first tyre test came in for Michelin, when they swapped from Bridgestone to Michelin. I'd never seen so many crashes with some big names, because it went from Bridgestone, which had the best front tyre in the entire world at that time and not such a great rear tyre, so you could spin it up, but you could rely on the front for everything. It went slightly, the balance changed, where the Michelin tyre was more in tune with its rear tyre, if you like, and the front didn't have quite as much grip as the Bridgestone did. And they hadn't sorted the bikes out at that point, and there was disaster. There was millions and millions of pounds worth of damage laying at the side in Sepang. So it's a tough few weeks. Don't ever think that these guys have got it easy, because they really, really don't have. And I think that with the competition ramping up, it's going to be tough for someone like Darren Binder. I mean, should I feel sorry for Darren? No, he's got a massive opportunity, and I'm all of us are going to be really pleased to see if he makes it work for himself. But he does have a reputation he's got to get over, and he's only going to be able to do that by being a consummate professional, by being, grafting and being a real professional. He's got his brother he can rely on for that kind of moral support as well, and the feedbacks that you need as a MotoGP rider. So I won't say he's got an advantage, because I don't think that's the case, but he's going to have to go about it in a methodical and incredibly professional way. Chucking it up the street and being slightly damaged a day into your rookie test is not what you need to be doing. So hard not to, of course.
Well, the countdown to Christmas and to 2022 MotoGP is well and truly on. I think our thanks go to Danny Aldridge as well for joining us and for giving us his time. What an amazing insight as well. And I'm sure if you want to read more about that, we'll have it up on crash.net as well in various bits and bobs and forms. But Keith Ewan, Pete McLaren, thank you very much as ever. We shall return with you regularly one more time next week for all the latest MotoGP chat. You can keep up to date with everything, of course, on crash.net. Any questions, send them in all the usual ways. Comment section, tweet, Instagram, Facebook us, or just search Crash MotoGP. Please do leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts as well. And we shall see you right back here next week. And then once again, if you missed it last time, we're monthly through the off season until we start again in March, back to our 4 a month. But until next week, bye-bye.